Hejka, to Alex Black Rose i witam was wszystkich bardzo serdecznie w kolejnym odcineczku It Gets So Lonely Here. Ostatnio uciekaliśmy przez las i trafiliśmy do wioski, w której spotkaliśmy pewną dziewczynę o głębokim głosie, który według mnie nie jest głęboki. I w sumie teraz przez przypadek, włączając nagrywanie, cofnęłam. Ale jedziemy dalej, zobaczymy, czy jesteśmy z nią bezpieczni. Heartedly, you look around your newfound surroundings. The ceiling is supported by wooden joists. Aha, czytamy po angielsku, nie będę tłumaczyła. Jeżeli ja mam problem z wypowiedzeniem czegoś, to znaczy, że pewnie nie znam znaczenia tego słowa, dlatego dostaniecie od razu wycinek z tłumaczenia. Jeżeli naprawdę nie daję sobie rady, będziecie słyszeć to słowo, więc się nie przejmujcie. I jeżeli macie jakieś pytania, teorie, bo już od pierwszego odcinka, od pierwszego zdania zaczęliśmy snuć nasze teorie spiskowe, co tu się może dziać, to bardzo chętnie poczytam, bo sama jestem ciekawa. Ja nagrywam to jedno po drugim, dlatego ja nie mam jeszcze, tak jakby nie miałam jeszcze czasu, żeby przeanalizować to, co tu widziałam. Poza tym ilość materiału nie jest zbyt duża. Bo pograłam tylko pół godziny, a to wiadomo, połowa z tego to było próbowanie czytać jak normalnie człowiek. Zapisujemy sobie. Mam nadzieję, że w sumie będziemy próbowali zdobyć wszystkie osiągnięcia, ale to zobaczymy. Bo na pewno są osiągnięcia, bo dostaliśmy już jedno. Seriously low. Not so much so that you are in danger of bumping your head, but just enough to feel claustrophobic. There is a fire in the corner, though it is not consigned to a grate. The fire in such is blazing in the open. A circle of logs set alight like a scene from a witch's kitchen. Above the fire hangs a silvery pot suspended from one of the wooden eaves. Other objects of interest are hung from the eaves. Iron implements you take to be cooking utensils, various herbs, and strips of meat left to cure. The smell of cooking fills the air, mingled with the sharp, sour scent of unwashed bodies. How, you wonder, does your hostess clean herself? You do not see a bathtub anywhere. Perhaps she does not possess one. The girl's home is unremarkable in every regard, but it is, you suppose, better than nothing. At least there is a roof over your head and food to put in your belly. The girl looks to the pot suspended over the fire, which she gives a stir with a ladle. Then she brings the ladle to her lips to taste whatever concoction she has brewing within it. You can only hope that she is not, like the weird sisters from the famous play, brewing a broth with fenny snake fillets. Czy ona robi potrawkę z elfów i cebuli? Znaczy się z ludzi, którzy padli przez dom. Albo właśnie ona zakopuje tych, którzy byli chorzy, a z reszty robi potrawkę z elfów i cebuli. Nie, Jezus Maria. Yes, I think this is just about done. The girl says, to nobody in particular. She sets the ladle down, back into the pot, and looks to you and smiles. You want something? It looks as though you've come quite a long way, and you must be hungry. These words are like music to your ears, even more divine than the trumpets of God's most loyal angels. You are so hungry you could eat a horse, not that there are any horses in the immediate vicinity. You express your interest to your hostess, who smiles in response. I thought you'd like the sign of that. Just give me a few moments. Your hostess retrieves two earthenware bowls from a cupboard with rickety hinges, into which she pours two hefty helpings of whatever it is she is cooking. This she serves with bread, which is so hefty it could be used as a murder weapon. Not much, I'm afraid. It's only soup and bread. It should take the edge off your appetite, though. You thank your hostess for her hospitality, your stomach grumbling all the while. The soup does not look like anything you would typically consume, but the soup's poor presentation does not dissuade you. It is true enough that people eat first with their eyes, but when one is hungry enough, one becomes obliging enough to eat almost anything. Why else do you think that people, when stranded upon desert islands, will resort to cannibalism? Humans are creatures of necessity. You like to wrap yourself up in pretensions, but in actuality, you are not much better than animals. You are so hungry, your stomach is achingly empty, that you certainly descend upon your food like an animal. Your teeth glint, your incisors gleam as soon as you have consumed all that your hostess has offered you. Your hostess watches what you eat, and she giggles once you have finished. Did you enjoy that? Oh, you catch your hostess' gaze, suddenly abashed. You were so hungry you failed to account for her judgment. Now you have some food in your belly, though. You have been suitably warmed. Your old self-sunk consciousness is returning. Did you not make a fool out of yourself? You demur shyly, looking in your lap, fearful all the while of what your hostess might think of you. You do not want her to take against you. Fortunately for you, however, and for your fragile ego, your hostess is not the judgmental sort. She is not like the girls you grew up with. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's nice to see my food being appreciated so heartedly. I know I'm not the best, but I've been practicing for a while. I used to cook for my father all the time, you see. This remark catches your attention. Quizzically, you look at your hostess. Your abashment over your animalistic eating habits suspended. What happened to her father? It seems a grim thing to contemplate after having eaten, but didn't your hostess mention something about a plague? Yes, your hostess says, her voice soft now and serious. That's right, there was a plague. Co to było? And what of the villagers? What of her father? They're all gone now. Gone? Yes, you see. Your hostess rearranges herself upon her chair, one slender leg folded over the other. Then she begins her tale in earnest. My family has a history. We've lived here for centuries by the church so that we can attend to the graveyards. Ah, so this abode is centuries old then. It would certainly explain the dirt. My father used to prepare bodies for burial back when he was alive. He built the coffins and he dug the graves and he lowered the coffins into the dirt. I know it might sound like an awful job, but somebody's got to do it. There's no sense averting our eyes from death, not when it happens to the best of us. It's a noble profession, one that's been handed down in our family through generations. My father's father was a grave digger, and so was my father's father's father, and my father's 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 father. Digging graves is in our blood. It's who we are. My. That was a surprisingly pretty speech. Coming from a girl who lives in the countryside, a girl who is without much in the way of education. It is apparent, just to listen to her and the way she slurs her syllables together, that she has never had any elocution lessons. It's not like you. There's a determination, however, to her, and a pride in her genealogy which gives her a respectable aura. You cannot help but be impressed. So, you ask your hostess, does that make her one in a long line of grave diggers? Yes, your hostess, the gravedigger says. That's about right, though I was never supposed to be a gravedigger myself. It's not a woman's profession, that's what everybody says. My father didn't mind that though. He taught me everything he knew and then some. I might be a woman, but I've plenty of upper body strength. I can dig a grave just as well as my father could without breaking a sweat. To the despair of my mother, up in heaven, I'm sure if she was still alive, she'd rather focus on more feminine pursuits like basket weaving or sewing to better attract a suitor. Not that she would do much good now. That would. There's nobody around who'd court me, not for miles and miles. And what happened to her mother? She died when I was very young, during childbirth. I was only 5 years old. Oh well, you can relate to her, at least upon this point. Your parents are not dead, at least not as far as you are aware, but you have not seen them in an awfully long time. They sent you away as soon as you were old enough, and they never once bothered to check up on you. For so many years there have been no letters, nor any visits. You offer the gravedigger your condolences. You do not know if they will help, but you feel like you cannot say nothing. That would seem heartless. The gravedigger, however, does not seem to be upset by this turn of events, because she smiles, albeit somberly. It's alright, it was ages ago. I don't remember her too well, and I've never really had the luxury of sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I had too much work to do. Around the house, you ask. That too. I was the oldest child, so it was my job after my mother died to manage the sweeping and the cooking, and looking after all of my siblings too. You blink intrigued then the glance of your hostess' lodgings. You do not see any siblings in the immediate vicinity. Where could they be?
Dead. 6 feet under.
The gravedigger must have noticed your rolling eyes. You are not being exactly subtle, because she shakes her head. I had siblings, 2 younger brothers. They're both gone now. Oh, you should have known. You apologize to the gravedigger for your lack of tact, but she does not seem upset by this faux pas. Don't apologize, it's not your fault. My brothers weren't long for this word anyway. The youngest, he died when he was still a babe. And the oldest, he died before he reached double digits. I was upset about it at the time, of course, but I've come to terms with it. Life's a fleeting thing in the wicked old world. That's something you learn in the street, digging graves, I mean. I've dug graves for the elderly and the infirm, but I've also dug graves for young babes still in their swaddling clothes. That's the nature of death. It comes for all of us in the end, no matter how old we are, no matter how much money we have, no matter how good or bad we've been. It's the great equalizer. Also, I've heard. A chill creeps down your spine as you listen to your hostess's speech. She's not wrong, but the inherent morality of all humankind is not something you wish to contemplate. It is too disturbing. For the longest of times, my family was a small one. It was just my father and me. But that was fine. It was how I liked it. I was very happy even in our lives weren't the best. I've never had any fancy clothes to wear, and we can't dine on the finest of foods. In this grand scheme of things, we ain't not anything that special, but I've always felt otherwise. I thought that I was blessed. We knew hardship, of course, and famine, but that's just the way life's is around here. When food supplies are low, we always helped one another out. I've had my father, but I also had the rest of the village. We all looked after one another, and things always worked out in the end. At least they did. until the plague happened. Yes, she had mentioned the plague. You had been wondering when she was going to return to the topic. You suppose that the plague is the reason that the village, as you travested it, was so very empty. You'd suppose right. The plague tore through the village. I don't remember when. It feels like it was a while ago, but maybe it wasn't all that long after all. It feels like I've been on my own for centuries, but... Your horse's eyes begin to cloud over. She looks as though she is entrenched within her own memories. What could she be remembering? You have never seen a plague before, though you have heard of them in your history lessons. Your history professor was quite enthusiastic about the subject. She talked about piles of dead bodies stacked up on the streets and stacked up in the wooden carts come to take them away, with no shortage of apple. She was a strange woman, your history professor. The plague came on very suddenly. There was no warning. One day everyone was fine, and the next we're all dead. It is with no small amount of anxiety that you eye the gravedigger. Then you ask quietly, surely they could not all have died? Is that not an exaggeration? Oh, if only. I wish I was exaggerating, but it's the truth, honest to God. The people in the village died, one after the other, just like that. I saw what the plague does to people firsthand. My father was one of the first people who got it. I think one of the bodies which came through that we buried must have had it. Not that I know for certain. I'm just guessing still. My father didn't have an easy time of it. His skin turned all grey and clammy, and he complained of a horrible fever. There were night sweats and stomach cramps. And then there were the boils.
The boils?
Pustules. They were the size of eggs, and they were full of pus. When they burst, it stunk. The whole house was full of it, the stink of death. The wise woman of the village came to see if she could be of any use, but it was no good. My father was too far gone already. She took one look at him lying on his deathbed and she shook her head. She said she didn't want to get any closer. I can't say I blame her, it was a ghastly sign. I didn't appreciate it at the time though. It felt like she was turning her back on us. I wished her ill. I remember that after she left, until a few days passed and she fell sick too. Then I felt bad for cursing her. I couldn't help but worry if it was all my fault. It's silly, I know, but... The gravedigger closes her eyes. She seems to squeeze her lids together until her lashes melt into flecks of falling snow. Her shoulders, which are very slender, are shaking. She looks as though she might at any moment fall apart. It wasn't long after that the rest of the village fell ill. They all had the same symptoms as my father, the clammy skin and the fever and the boils. The boils grew and then they burst and then they died in screaming, stinking agony. My father died too, only 3 days after he fell ill. But I think even that was 3 days too many. I didn't want my father to die, of course. I did everything I could to help him, but it was all pointless. None of my herbal salves had any impact. I couldn't make a blind bit of difference. All I did was stand about his bedside, telling him it'd be alright, until his eyes sank into his skull like 2 black stones and his mouth dried out. During the last day, before he died, he might have been a corpse already. He didn't look at me, he didn't speak to me. He just lay in bed with his eyes closed, groaning. I'd never wished any ill on my father before, but during those moments The gravedigger squeezes her hand, which are resting upon her black-clad lap, into fists. She trembles. Then, in a voice throbbing with awful emotion, she says, I wish he'd just died. Well, based on her anecdote, it does not sound like she had overly long to wait. I wonder if she would consider that a silver lining. No, perhaps not. The gravedigger is still shaking. She will not cry, will she? You hope not. Awkwardly, you look at the gravedigger. You are not sure how to soothe her, but you know you must make some sort of an effort, even if it's a taken one. You shift upon your chair, which feels very cold and hard beneath your thighs. Then you say very softly that you are sorry. It is not much, but it is all you can think of saying. You had thought initially that your situation was comparable to that of the gravedigger, but now you can see that this is not the case. Her suffering has far outstripped your own. Not that suffering is a competition, of course. Your apology feels inadequate to your ears, largely because it is, but the gravedigger seems not to mind it. She's very big-hearted, that girl, to smile at you so, no matter how foolish you might be. Do you really deserve such kindness? Oh, again, with the apologies. It's alright, like I said, you didn't cause any of this. I'm not upset with you, I'm just recounting what happened is all. I do wonder though why I never felt sick myself. I thought I was going to die, so I'd already prepared for the Reaper to come and take me away. But maybe he wasn't interested. Maybe he'd already satiated his appetite on all the others. Or maybe he thought that he'd have to leave me alive for practicality's sake. With my father gone, who else would turn to dead? I was the only person left by the end of it all, so I'd had to bury the people in the village. They're all resting peacefully now, under the earth where the plague can reach them. Only on one hand, I'm happy for them. They were able to escape from all their suffering. When I think about all the people I have lost, though, the gravedigger tenses. Then she sniffs. When I think about the kindly washerwoman who helped me scrub the mud and the dirt from my clothes.
Aha, so this village did have its fair share of washerwomen after all. It would seem your earlier insistence upon this particular point was not without merit.
And the handsome young farm lads who used to flirt with me. The priest who preached at the church, who told us wonderful tales of paradise, and the children who would skip stones on the lake and play hopscotch in the streets. I can't help but feel so lonely. The great figure's eyes begin to shine once she has finished her address with tears, but she does not let them fall. She's being very brave, much more than you are. Anxiously, you extend a hand toward her, meaning to... What? Give her a hug? You do not know her well enough. Pat her head? That would be infantilizing. Squeeze her hand? Perhaps that could be misconstrued as a romantic overture, and that is the last thing you want. You endure more than your fair share of teasing over that. You sit there for a few moments, paralyzed by indecision, as the gravedigger poorly suppresses her sniffles. In the end, you let your arm drop back to your side. Sight, your hand rests upon your lap, as useful as a damp kindling. You do not know what to do with it. Przez sekundę mi się wydawało, że tło jest jakieś takie bardziej dziwne, ale chyba nie. You do know that you ought to say something though, to show that you heard her plight and that you care. You do not know what this something should be, however. No words could ever console the gravedigger. They would never be enough. They can offer some balm, however, to the bereaved, and so, after a pause just long enough to be awkward, you offer your condolences. What else can you say? Oh no,
the gravedigger replies, wiping a few stray tears away with the back of her hand.
It's alright. I've grown used to it really, being on my own. I mean, it ain't so bad really. And I'm not alone now, at least. I've met you. You'll keep me company, won't you? Well, what can you say to that? You aren't callous enough to trump this poor girl's hopes, are you? You know full well you yourself how awful that feels. You can do nothing but nod, a response which makes the girl smile more widely still. That's wonderful. I have known you're just a traveler who's passing through, but I can offer you bread and board until you leave. I have enough food and a spare bedroom. I can make it up for you right now. You must be tired after your long journey. Just give me a moment. The gravedigger rises to her feet in a flurry of excitement, then retreats. You watch her as she departs, a little too eager to please and frown. The girl's home is a small, humble one with low ceiling and slanted walls. You cannot imagine such a small dwelling possessing a spare bedroom. This so-called spare bedroom is, in all likelihood, the room her father slept in before the plague carried him off. You do not think that you would much like to spend the night in the room of a dead man, but what choice do you have? You are tired, wretchedly so. Why, it is all you can do to keep your eyes open. While you were running through the forest, desperate to escape your pursuer, you had no thought in mind beyond finding some safe sanctuary in which you could recuperate. Now that you have found said sanctuary, it will be unreasonable to find faults with it. You ought to learn to be more thankful for what you have. There are many people in the world with less. You rise and follow the gravedigger once she has finished her preparations to her so-called spare bedroom, which is very bit as cramped as you feared it would be. At least there is a bed, which comes as something of a relief. The rest of the longings are so humble, you were half expecting a straw pallet. As tired as you might be, you cannot lie to yourself. You have no desire to sleep among the hay like an animal. The sheets of the bed are clean too, a fact you discern with a cursory glance. So you will not be expected to sleep on the sweat-soaked linen of a plague-ridden man after all. This really is your lucky day. I got you this too, the gravedigger says, somewhat shyly, as she hands you a folded gown. Sleep in. I thought it might come in handy. Your own clothes are a little shabby. She can say that again. Your skirt is covered in mud and the hem is torn and ragged. This nightgown is one of my old ones, so it suffered a bit of wear and tear, but I hope it'll fit alright. It's clean if nothing else. You accept the nightgown from your benefactress with words of thanks. You want to sound appropriately appreciative but cannot mask your fatigue. Weariness overcomes you and you yawn. A fact the gravedigger does not fail to notice. Oh, begging your pardon. I don't want to keep you. I'll be making myself scarce. If you knew anything though, don't hesitate to ask. I'll be happy to help. The gravedigger bows her head to you like a drudge, then hurries off, closing the door behind her with a thud. Tired though you are, you soon find that you rather miss your hostess' company. In the face of her good-natured smiles, you could almost forget all of the hardship you have hitherto endure. In her absence, however, your longings feel almost unbearably cold and inhospitable. You suppress a shudder, then unclothe yourself. You walk as quickly as you are able, but your fingers are cold and they fumble with the buttons of your blouse. It takes you more time than you would like to complete this endeavor, but you soon have your shirt and your skirt dispensers with. You are too tired to fold them neatly, so you do not bother to fold them at all. Instead, you cast them carelessly upon the floor, as defiant as a sulky child, and pull on your new nightgown. Your hostess' earlier warnings were apt enough. It is quite worn, but it fits well enough. It is more comfortable at least than your old uniform. You have endured worse. Newly dressed and ready for bed, you loosen your hair from your braids and settle down among the sheets. It is with a sigh you extinguish the weakly flickering candlelight which burns on your bedside, and with another sigh that you lay your head down upon your pillow. Though physically exhausted, you have to wonder whether you will be able to sleep at all. You can recall your previous dash through the forest in such vivid details your heart is still pounding. That fear has yet to leave you. Perhaps it will never leave you. Your terror is such it almost feels as though it has fused itself into your bones, into your very being. But your exhaustion is greater than your worldly anxieties, and soon it calms you. Your eyelids fall shut and you breathe. Your breathing inevitably begins to even out. It is not long until you are spiraling through a dark, deep abyss lost in Morpheus' kingdom. But your sleep, despite your worried state, is not as restorative as you had hoped. Your imagination has always been overactive. Even at the conservatory, you were frequently beset by the dreams of the most vivid nature. The dreams that you have this night lying beneath unfamiliar sheets upon an unfamiliar bed are no less intense than usual. In your dreams, you are back at the conservatory, the place where this adventure of yours began. You're wearing the crisp white blouse you once discarded and your grey unremarkable skirt. Your hair is tied in braids and your eyes are downturned, forever focused upon your feet. You try not to look at your classmates, and you thought yourself fortunate if they did not look at you in return. You did not want anybody to not notice you until that awful winter. That is where everybody stopped paying attention to you for good. Nobody tried to trip you when you walked past them in the hallways. Nobody, in fact, so much as glanced at you. All of a sudden, there were no malicious whispers, no wicked laughter, no pulling hair, or no thrown objects. You were giddy with relief at first over this newfound means of tormenting you that your classmates had devised. But this little game that of complete and utter disregard continued and on and on and on. As the day grew shorter and the nights grew longer, as the time passed, you began to fret as to the state of your own corporeality. Could anybody still see you? Did you even exist at all? Then, at long last, you found it, quite by accident, the sword of all your woes. One of the girls had erected it in a forest through which you were sometimes bidden to jog from PE class, beneath the shade cast by an old oak tree. It was a makeshift tombstone, a small, meager monument made of stone, upon which one of your classmates had hewn a name, your name. You knew at once, as you stood there, standing beneath the shade of the ancient tree, that this was the reason behind your classmates' silence. This was why they had for many months been ignoring you so assiduously. They had buried you. In their hearts, you had already died. Your inner dreams, notwithstanding your sleep more comfortably than you had anticipated. When you awoke the following morning to the sweet chirping of birdsong, you felt well rested, albeit woozy. Your head is aching. It is nothing, however, that a cup of hot tea cannot fix. Niepokoi mnie, że nie ma muzyki. You stumble into the kitchen in your nightclothes, your hair loose and your feet bare, and the gravedigger turns to you. Dobra. Przeżyliśmy noc. Juhu. Mam nadzieję, że wam się podobało. Naprawdę jestem ciekawa, o co tak naprawdę chodzi w tym wszystkim. Bo nie powiem, zapowiada się, że tutaj będą takie zwroty akcji, że będziemy musieli uważać. Mam nadzieję, że wam się podobało, że usłyszymy się następnym razem w następnym odcineczku. It gets so lonely here. Bye bye!